I'm Paul. I really enjoyed meeting you all and getting to know you. And I feel part of this meeting is kind of making a connection, human to human. And, but I've also been studying you all as you speak, for your potential as communicators. And I haven't seen anyone or met anyone yet here who couldn't be a really good communicator. So, can I go ahead then? All right, I come to you today as an enemy of the American people. In reference to what our slanderous chief executive calls us. And I think, you gotta know, I take great offense at that. I have dedicated my life to calling journalists. I am interested in the truth just as much as you are. I do journalism, we do science, we seek the truth. The only thing is that in journalism, they can put us in jail for doing that. And if we question the king, it used to be they put you in jail. Then we had this thing called the American Revolution, and we have a constitution. And once again, we have a king who wants to make us the enemy of the people. He thinks I am more dangerous than the dictator in North Korea. So I wanted to get emotional there for you so you can see how much I feel. There might be a difference between us and seeking the truth. I'm willing to lay my life down over my constitution and my fellow citizens. Just want you to know that's how strongly I feel about my career. All right, I'm supposed to time this. That was my introduction. And you know what's going to happen. I'm going to talk for about half of our period with nuts and bolts about communication, and Jessica's going to talk another half period from a bigger picture point of view. And we'll have questions at some point. Yeah. Stand back.
Yes.
Am I getting out of the picture?
Don't stand too close to the table or just because it's too tall. I looked your head and I just need to go.
Okay, so back, stay back by the books. Right. You might have to keep going like this because I will, you know, when you become a teacher, get your persona and your style. Mine is partly because I get nervous, but partly because I just get excited. I move around a lot, so I'll try to, oh my. By the way, this thing you may have recognized I play around with. This is an insulin pump. I have type 1 diabetes, and so my hormones and I are having a little game, a little biology experiment. And it's all good, but I apologize for the distraction. Just beep it. We're good. 3 minutes. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Journalism. That's my Chicago police press pass when I was first starting out on the police beat in Chicago. Jacques Cousteau influenced me growing up in the late 50s and 60s. I wanted to be a biologist, went to the University of Illinois, which, by the way, that's something else Betty and I have in common. We grew up within a few miles of each other, didn't know each other, in the Chicago area, and went to Champaign-Urbana. I since have gotten master's degrees in history and journalism, so I'm kind of a big picture, and I think that's important to who I am and what journalists should be. Jumping way ahead to my fellowship at MIT, there's a science writing program at MIT that's nice to be part of. While I was there, I finished, well, I worked a lot, got a lot done on my first book, and only book so far, Green Phoenix, the story of Ganson and Hallwax and the Guanacaste project in Costa Rica. The people, the politics, the biology of it. It's a history and a little bit of a literary journalism thing. And Oxford has contacted me and wants a new edition, and I'm going to argue for a second volume because I've been working on that one for the past 8 years and want to get to writing it. All right. After 25 years in journalism, I became a teacher. I love teaching college students. I love getting journalists and students out into the field to learn about the science, the social aspects, and the progress. And so here we are in Osneal and in Arivada a couple of years ago, and we tried again this year. We got the timing right that time. Here we are. I do field reporting on social justice issues as well, and African American farmers a year ago in the spring. We tried to tell that story. This is a droning, by the way, when you take a picture of yourself with a drone. And I know I kind of got to relate to that. Here we are in the Everglades doing a magazine on plant conservation. And this to me is the epitome of field reporting. That's my specialty. Get out there, the heck with the heat, the heck with mosquitoes, the heck with the alligators. There's an alligator behind those trees where we were standing before. And now, and I just retired from the university. I'm 66. And my next career is to be writing all those books that I have gotten for ideas over the past X number of years. Here's the list of them, roughly 14. The top one is more of a blog than a book, but happy to talk about any of those at any time. I'm done. No need for a hug, however. You know, my last, one of these books I have to tell you about, Annie Brassey, an English woman from the 19th century who married a wealthy guy. They had a yacht, they sailed around the world. He checked on the British, on the railroads built by the British in the British Empire. She was a botanist and a naturalist and wrote wildly popular books in the mid and late 1800s that, and she's hard to find in history now. Why? She's a woman, of course. So, heck of a story, and that's my #1 book writing project. Oh, I don't know, ACP2, and then this thing about field reporting, how to feel like a field reporter is going to be important for journalism. Okay, way over. Do I do the slides?
Yes.
All right. Let me talk about the topic asked to talk about today, communicating biodiversity, which is part of this effort. And the way I like to look at this is you have a special challenge. You work in the world of wounds. You may know what that means. From Aldo Leopold, this quote, one of the penalties of an ecological education is that you live alone in a world of wounds, meaning this. By the way, I changed this to reflect the fact that women are actually part of our society now. And although don't blame him, he was just part of the times back in the late 40s when he wrote this. So you basically have to explain to people who aren't going to get it right off the bat. Like astronomy, like deep space and the cosmos. Wow, there's a wow factor there. Nature and the way it works and how the biodiversity crisis is unfolding, that's hard. And you feel it emotionally, I'm sure, deep within you. And the challenge is explaining that to people who may not want to know. So what you need to start thinking about, and I'm going to scratch your mind a little bit here with just a lot of little nuts and bolts. And maybe you'll connect to some of them not, but there are strategy and tactics. I'm doing this part with you right now a little bit, but ultimately you're going to have to engage the general public and other audiences and explain what's wrong and what you're working on to try to understand it so we can find solutions and inspire people. This is, in my mind, the fundamental, the fundamentals of good communication of science. And just like baseball, you got to get the fundamentals first, and then you can get fancy. There is a new wave of science communication thought in the science community, at least in the United States. It's becoming bigger and bigger on a lot of college campuses, including mine in Columbia at University of Missouri. Graduate students, I was asked, by the way, to refocus all my attention to training, to preparing the next generation of journalists, but also helping the next generation of scientists understand science communication. So I have a course, or had a course, maybe with the end, a semester-long course on communicating science to the public for undergraduate science majors. I didn't at first want to do it, but I've been in the middle of this communication thing for a long, long time and have thought a lot about it, even as a journalist, between the public and scientists, and how do you communicate and write about it or tell stories about it in a way that's meaningful and not dumbing it down. You can do it, it's not easy. This is just one of the recent articles out of Science that describes how the University of Washington College of Environment is starting to measure the impact of how their faculty are doing in terms of public communication, not just publications in referee journals, but this is, of course, a subject you could go deeply into, the values and norms of science and how you get tenure and how you advance are quite a bit different. Let me strike that from our talk. Betty, I hope I'm staying back in the back. Telling stories, this is what it's about. People like stories. You and I like stories. You're just going to have to learn to tell them about your research and your critters or your plants or the relationships or evolution. Damn the torpedoes, they're coming at us. You know, the anti-evolution stuff, the creationism, the right-wing politics, anti-science. Forget about it. It's going to be there. It's always there. You got to tell your story. This is what's missing. I recommend, and so telling the story of your science is going to be quite a bit different in structure than writing a paper for a journal, of course. You kind of flip it. And this is what I do when I'm reading a research paper. I go right to the discussion and conclusions. Yeah, I'll look at the abstract, but how we did it, which is very important, you know that the bottom line is what people want and why is it interesting. Plus, they want to know why you're interested. You know, this is something I'll get into maybe if there's time. You deep down inside you might be afraid to communicate, but you really do want to tell your story. Otherwise, why are you doing what you're doing? You're excited by it. If you have time and want to understand why it's important to tell a story and then how to tell a story, I really recommend, this is an assignment in my communicating science course. This is a Robert Krulwich, and a former NPR and PBS journalist. His commencement speech at Caltech in 2008. It's inspiring. All right, tin cans. I do a whole class on, I get 2 tin cans and I put a string between them and we stretch them out and we get the concept that you have a communicator on one side and you have an audience on the other side and you have a medium in between. And thinking about all three, both cans and the string, that's how you think about communication. It's that simple. Fundamentals. So, how many of you have done the tin can and string thing? Sometimes it works in the classroom, sometimes it doesn't. It gets a lot of laughs though, and that's part of the engagement thing. Understanding the string means understanding the media. There are many mediums that you can use to communicate. Understanding the audience is very important. Again, one of the questions you have to face is, if you do want to learn more about this, is every time you learn communications techniques or begin to prepare a message, think about who the audience is, because depending on who the audience is, you may get this question, which may take you aback, and you just have to be ready for unexpected questions. Why should I care? And it may be, why should I care? Or it might be, why should I care? You asshole. You asshole, why are you taking up my time with this? And you want to go, you mean you don't understand biodiversity? You mean you don't understand why it's important to us? No, they don't. Why is that? Okay, failure of education, more urban-centered people, you name it. That's really not a bad question. And that's part of what you need to be ready to answer. Why do you care about this? David Gilman mentioned it yesterday in his talk about Buffalo, that It's really important to understand the human organism and how it works, and I'm talking biologically here, how it works, what their concerns are. We got emotions too, by the way. You do, and other humans do. So that all has to be taken into account. What's your level of audience? Are you talking to grade schoolers or an audience of adults? And which is harder to communicate to? It's actually a serious question. And keeping in mind now, more and more visual communication is becoming more popular. Word people like me didn't like it at first, but we kind of get it. We kind of get it. It's about telling a story. All right. Some quick tips on your approach. It is a fun time to communicate. You can be creative. I mean, you don't think you're a poet? You are. Being yourself when you communicate and revealing your own excitement, your own passion about nature. I mean, come on, we've heard it many times. I'm keeping my mouth shut every time I hear a talk point. Nature's amazing. Every single one of your talks, something cool is happening. And this is what the average non-scientist is interested as much as what you found. It's like, oh my gosh, this is a human being I'm talking to who's excited about something. You think you have a narrow field of expertise in your little silo? No, sir, you're a scientist. You have a broad range. From the public's perspective, you have a lot of authority. And I would say, use it. Forget about these people. This isn't, what they think isn't going to matter in public communication. That's my opinion. That's easily debated from where you're sitting. You have to worry about your career. But in public communication, well, anyway. This is a great book. This is a book I signed for my class, written by Cornelia Dean, who's an editor, was an editor and writer for the science section of the New York Times. It's short chapters on how to write an op-ed piece, how to talk to reporters, how to talk to TV, how to talk to. It's a good, and it's a quick read. Understanding journalists, I'm going to move along because of time. We're an ecosystem. Please try not to generalize about journalists. There are some ethical, professional, responsible people, and there are kind of almost the opposite in our business. Your job is to identify who you're talking to, part of that. So there's all kinds of ways of looking at journalism, and if our chief executive was listening, I would say my apologies to the animal kingdom that I'm equating journalists with. That's not working. Just keep going. We have our own culture. You have your culture. It is going to pay, if you want to succeed in communication, to understand this culture and the constraints we work under. Time being the main thing. And increasingly in journalism, there's less time because we're being asked by the corporate machine to produce more widgets per hour. And what that means is we're running faster and faster and writing stories that are shallower and shallower. And that's just a reality with some journalists, and you need to recognize that and help them. There's a week-long workshop in this alone. Typical assignments in the class, things that you might want to learn how to do as part of a workshop on communication. Science communication is learn how to do a research summary of your own, a 1 page or less, with little or no jargon description that you can email to somebody and say, I'll be glad to talk to you, but first, read this. The elevator speech, 30 seconds. What happens if you walk into an elevator with a program officer who says, oh, what do? You want to blow that. Or a politician who might or might not take a good view of your research. Again, another whole day of a workshop. I have my students cover a press conference, a news conference, news. It's a whole other thought. Write a news release about your research. Practice a TV interview, a 2-minute thing with, on yourself. How to blog. First day of class, everyone becomes a blogger. Believe it or not, 3/4 of the class walks in the first day, they've never blogged, and they walk out and they're bloggers about science. Tweeting, wow, the younger scientists are probably already doing a lot of tweeting, and not just to communicate with friends, but also colleagues, and it's an important new form. I'm not that good at it, I can do it, but there are some people who would be great to bring in and train you on how to tweet. And of course, the politician thing. All right. Jessica, I'm wrapping it up. Where's the mafia? These people used to write op-ed pieces in the New York Times in the 80s and 90s. So who's stepping up? Somebody, some people in here. You know, these are the eminence Greases, if they're still alive. Tom is gone. Well, you can see a lot of change needs to occur. All right, opportunities. Yale has a, and I'm going to do some comparisons here between the biodiversity crisis and the climate crisis. Yale has its own website dedicated to climate news and features. They used to be all print, I mean, words. Now they're kind of almost all video and audio. Connecting with the main journalism societies that cover these issues. This is my favorite professional society. I'm a member of 4, and Society of Environmental Journalists. Someday, you all ought to think about having a presence there. That can be arranged. A presence meeting, a panel of presentations. AAAS is just one of the many examples of organizations that are pushing science communication, and they're helping with workshops that train, I like to use the word prepare, people to communicate. Today, Relena, thank you. Did I get your name right?
Yes.
Thank you. This story you may have heard about, the raccoon climbing up the building in downtown Minneapolis. It's been a huge story here. And covered like crazy. People, and I don't know why. Maybe it's because they don't want to hear any more from our fearless leader. Here it is, climbing up the wall. I think this is fortuitous that at the same time that this meeting is occurring, you have been given a vehicle, a member of the biodiversity community, as it were, who's done something that garnered public attention massively. This is a worldwide story. It's a good news story because it's now safely down, and I'm actually thinking about making this character a character in one of my books. That's another story. And by the way, the name of this raccoon, I officially dub it Relena. We can learn, as I do in the class, we can learn by studying how these people did their thing. These are just 4 of the many great science communicators of the recent past and today. This, if you don't recognize her, this is Catherine Cahill, really nice person. And it's become a huge and a really good science communicator on the climate change issue. She's an evangelical Christian, by the way, and a climate scientist at Texas Tech. We have a lot to learn by studying how the climate science community has done science communication, and both what they did right and where they stepped into traps and got accused. And you do need to think about your enemies. And you do have enemies, and you already know that. All right. You want to have fun. Jessica, it's all yours.